Alright, welcome to video number 6. In this video we're going to put everything together. We're going to take these techniques of dividing we've been learning the past couple of days and learn how to solve some polynomials with them. A couple of warm-ups I'd like you to try on your own first. These should be skills that you already have. So go ahead and first try this problem. Try to find all the solutions of this equation. Just pause it and try it and then come back. Okay, great, you're back. Hopefully you remembered that we are solving this by looking for a common factor. Notice that x goes into each of the terms. So we'll factor that out. Basically the opposite of the distributive property, dividing each term by x. This becomes x squared minus 7x plus 10. And then we solve that quadratic, whatever way is easier for us. This one factors very nicely, so I'm just going to break that down quickly into x minus 2, x minus 5. Remember, the solutions are the values of x. So now that we have this factor down, we set all of our factors equal to 0, including this x out front here, which gives us a solution. The x minus 2 equals 0. Well, that means x could be 2. And then x minus 5 equals 0, and so x could be 5, right? Finding solutions, we call them roots also, we call them zeros. We know they represent x-intercepts on a graph. We'll be putting all those things together here shortly. So you know how to solve something like that already, and that's your first warm-up there. We're going to solve some larger polynomial expressions here today. The second warm-up I'd like you to try is just a division problem. I'm going to let you choose how you like to divide this one. Go ahead and give this a shot. All right. I like synthetic division better than long division. Since this is just x minus 3, I can use synthetic division. If x plus a number, x minus a number, I can use synthetic division. This would have been x squared minus 3, 2x minus 3. I would have to use long division. But synthetic division works for me here. Positive 3 will go out in the box here. Write down my coefficients. Notice none of them are missing, so I don't have to worry about putting any zeros in there. And drop down that 1, I multiply and I add. Multiply and add. Multiply and add. So we end up with a 1x squared, because this is an x to the third divided by x, minus 6x plus 8, and no remainder in this case. So this would be my solution to that division problem. If you did it with long division, you should get the exact same answer. If you tried it with long division, it's not working out, so you can go back and find your error. If you can't, let me know in class tomorrow. We'll look through it together. Okay, so now that we can divide polynomials, we can solve some polynomials. I want to put those things together into solving an equation like this, a cubic equation. We've solved things like this before by taking out common factors, but what you'll notice in this case is there is no common factor with all those terms. X will go into the first 3 terms, but not into the 24. So I don't have that greatest common factor to bring out and simplify this that way. So what we know about solving polynomials from the past isn't going to help us in this case. What we need to do is factor this polynomial. Now, we haven't factored anything with an x cubed before unless we could just take out an x. But we actually know one of the factors of this polynomial. We know it because of the warm-up you just did. We know, based on this warm-up, that x minus 3 is a factor of this polynomial. We know it's a factor because when we divided it, we got no remainder. It divided evenly. So we know that x minus 3 is a factor of this polynomial. We know that you can break this down into x minus 3 times something. Well, it's x minus 3 times something else. Just like we factor out an x in that first warm-up, we can actually factor out an x minus 3 here because we happen to know that that's a factor. Now, what goes with that factor is our solution when we divide it. We said that this divided by x minus 3 gives me this. Well, that means x minus 3 times this would give me the original expression. So I could break this down into x minus 3 times this x squared minus 6x plus 8. So I can factor this down here into an x squared minus 6x plus 8, since we had no remainder. Now, if there would have been a remainder when we did that warm-up problem, it wouldn't have been a factor. We'd have had to try to find another factor, right? Now, we got really, really lucky that we knew this x minus 3. We just happened to have a warm-up that had that division problem there. So we'll have to deal with how we'll handle that later on if we don't know what that factor is. But now once we've got this broken down some, we're going to treat this the same way we treated the first warm-up. Once we took that x out, then we're left with a quadratic. We can solve this quadratic however we like. Again, this one factors really nicely. So I have an x minus 3 here. I'm going to factor this x minus 2 and x minus 4, and then find my solution, solve for x, just by setting all my factors equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0. Gives us our three solutions: positive 3, positive 2, and positive 4. And there's my solutions to that equation. So the trick here was knowing that x minus 3 was a factor, and then once we had that factor out, working with this part the way we've done in the past, breaking this down, solving it further. All right, so combining our technique of long division or synthetic division along with how we know how to solve any sort of an equation. All right? Another example here for us to try together. It's x cubed plus 9x squared plus 22x plus 8 equals 0. All right? No common factor again. That constant, that 8 at the end, kind of messes this up. I can't take an x out of everything. So I'm hoping to break this down in some way. Unfortunately, I don't have that factor right now. So what I'm going to have to rely on is basically magic. I'm going to just have to hope that something magical happens, and I just know a factor that is going to work for this. So I just sort of sit here and stare and hope that something magical happens, and oh hey, look over there real quick. Oh my gosh, look at this. We'll edit that out. We've got a factor of x plus 4 that we can use. Now, how do I know this? Right now, this really is magic. I don't know how that x plus 4 showed up there. It just sort of magically appeared. We'll have to deal with how to make our own magic later on. We'll probably save that for the next video. But let's say, hey, why don't you try x plus 4? I think maybe x plus 4 is a factor here. Well, is it actually a factor? Let's find out. Let's do our division. Again, I'm going to do synthetic divisions. I like it better. All right, so let's say we put negative 4 in our box here, and then 1, 9, 22, and 8. Okay. Let's see. Put that down. Negative 4, 5, 22, and then negative 8, and that's a 0. Well, that works, right? I know this is a factor. I know x plus 4 is a factor because I get no remainder, right? And that's going to be the key. Finding a factor that when we do our division, we're left with no remainder. So I do know that this breaks down. It breaks down into, well, x plus 4 was this magical factor that appeared. And then x squared plus 5x plus 2 equals 0. Okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and solve that. I don't think this is going to factor, though. It doesn't look like I'm going to get any factors there. You can tinker around with it if you want, but I don't see any factors that are popping out. So I'm going to do this with the quadratic formula in this case. I'm going to do negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So let's see, my discriminant there, 25 minus 8 is going to be 17. Yeah, that wouldn't have factored because 17's not a perfect square. So I have irrational roots here. That's okay. You know, two of my solutions here happen to be irrational numbers. I have negative 5 plus square root of 17 divided by 2. Negative 5 minus square root of 17 divided by 2. Now, I do have a third factor, that x plus 4. I do have to set that factor equal to 0 also. Find out that x is negative 4, and that's my third solution. Right? So the key here is find some magic. Hopefully that magic hits you in the head. That's a little joke for you there. Hopefully, we really need this factor to start us out. Whether it's from a warm-up problem or in this case just sort of pops up. Right now, without that factor to get us started, we're stuck without it. But we will learn how to find that factor on our own here in the near future. But the key right now is take that factor you're given, use division to break down your polynomial, and then solve from there to find your solutions. We'll talk about what these mean in terms of a graph. We'll talk about how we can handle if we don't know this factor up front either tomorrow or the next day very soon. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.